let's start off with something that I want to ask you about. Not your interview. I want to ask you about this. This is from Axios. This is an article on Trump and 2028 hats. The Trump store is selling hats teasing a third term in 2028. Does it bother you? Do you think he's just messing with the people? I don't think he's going to go away.
I do not think that that man is going to leave the White House unless he's in a body bag or he's escorted out.
Wow.
I think that this is an authoritarian play. It's a propaganda play for him to start normalizing that he's not leaving. This is, he's a Putin wannabe. It's his dream to have a fake election where he can cook the books and act like he wins 95% of the vote. Because if you noticed about these MAGA men, they never want to do the grit and the hard work and earn something on their own. It's always some quick fix. So this, to me, we can roll our eyes at it, but this is what he does. He tries to normalize the abnormal. He normalized January 6th. He normalized the felons that beat up cops and pardoned them. And I think this is more dangerous than just an eye roll. I think it's a part of a propaganda authoritarian play.
Yeah. So listen, new polling on, I agree with you. And so I don't know what we're going to do for the 2028 election. Because I don't know what's going to be real. He's put people in places. He's control of every single lever of our government. You know, the three branches of our government. He's in control of it. He's just completely ignoring the legislative branch and controlling them. He, installed 3 Supreme Court justices who most of the time carry his water. So I agree with you. I don't think he's going to leave, and I think that he's going to come up with some way to figure out how to stay in there, even if he uses Bloomberg in New York as the mayor as some sort of precedent or something, but he is going to try it. And I'm afraid with all the folks he has in place that it might work.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're up for the fight of our lives right now. And in addition to that, the damage of the American brand is so much deeper right now than what you see the Dow or the S&P 500 doing. There is a deeper brand damage. We read an article on our other podcast, I've Had It Today, where people in Europe are talking about how to get off of American products entirely. Apple, iCloud, American music, American entertainment. I mean, it's this whole article that The Guardian put out. So there is a massive brand damage. And I believe that if CEOs of companies, because Americans like their money, and if CEOs of companies don't grow a pair and get out on the Congress steps and say, we backed the wrong horse, we're not going to have a supply chain, our economy is going to be in the shitter, we screwed up, we need to put pressure on Congress. I think they need to move quickly and get him out. Now, do I think they're going to do it? Is there anybody with a spine? No, but I wish that's what would happen, because that's how dangerous I think this is.
When you talk about brand damage, you said the brand damage of America, right? Is that what you said?
Our brand nobody wants to come here. I think it's $100 billion in tourism we're going to lose. How are we going to host the Olympics, Don? How? We have all of these reports about journalists, your colleagues, international colleagues, that are getting burner phones to enter in the United States. You have these German tourists that are detained. We're disappearing people to a concentration camp. Like, how are we going to host the World Cup and the Olympics? How's that going to happen with all this shit going on?
Well, look, when you get involved in politics, and especially if people don't like what you're doing, it does affect your brand. Look at Tesla. I mean, they've had this lowest earnings quarter, I think, in 4 years, down 71%. People don't like what is happening, and the polls are showing it. There's new polling out. Fox News is polling on Trump's first 100 days, and it is not good. Watch this, Jen.
I wasn't talking tariffs and the economy. If you look at our new Fox News poll at 100 days job approval compared to other presidents, there you see the president at 44%. And you see his first term at 45% at this mark, the 100-day mark. We have other new polls that are revealing some concerns about the economy. Let's talk about that.
Not good. I mean, he's only second to himself.
I want to know who the 44% are. That's a little too high for me. I don't think we're working hard enough. Listen up, Lemon Nation. We've got to work harder. We tanked Tesla, 71% profits. Who is this 44%? That is unacceptable. This thing needs to be in the teens.
Mm-hmm. Jen, Jen, you're not a professionally trained journalist like me, but I actually think you do a really good job. And in some instances, I think you've done a better job than I could, especially on this interview. Now, if you go back and you look through the Don Lemon resume, you'll see that when Rahm Emanuel became the chief of staff for President Barack Obama, I got the first interview with him because I was from Chicago and I knew where he hung out. And I let's go over here to the such and such. And I got him coming out of a building. So I got the first interview with Rahm Emanuel. I know Rahm Emanuel. But this interview, I thought you did an excellent job. You pushed back, and not many people will do this. And I do not see this in corporate media these days. So everybody strap in. I want you to watch this. This is the fearless Jennifer Welch of the I've Had It With podcast, the co-host, interviewing Rahm Emanuel, but also calling him on what she thinks is bullshit, which I think everyone should be doing. Here it is.
What have you had it with?
I would say we have a series of topics that I think sometimes consume and other topics that don't actually get the attention that they should get. And we ended up fighting for the wrong things. We were really south on kitchen table issues. We weren't really good about the family room issues.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you 100
the only room we were do really well was the bathroom. And that's the smallest room in the house.
That is such bullshit. That is total bullshit. That is buying into the right-wing media narrative. And I'm so sick of Democrats like you selling out and saying this. You know who talks about trans people more than anybody? MAGA. Kamala Harris talked about home ownership. She talked about kitchen table issues. Trump's over there droning on about Hannibal Lecter. Are you kidding me? This is where the Democrats lose because we're playing the game with the rule book. They've read the rule book up and are cramming it down everybody's throat. And Democrats are upset because Joe Biden pardoned his son. We got to fucking fight. They're the gender obsessed weirdos, not us. We're the ones who fight for Social Security. We fight for Medicare. And yeah, we're not going to bully trans people. We're not going to fucking do it. Fine.
Jen, I always said since I've been in business, if you want something done, ask a woman to do it. And thank you for doing the job that journalists are not doing right now. Tell me about that.
So I was just so shocked. If you watch the whole thing on our YouTube or our podcast channel, somebody had emailed and said, hey, you want Rahm Emanuel on? I was like, yeah, that's great. I thought about Obama. And so I thought we'd do like the typical, all you can eat buffet of Trump bashing and, what we're all talking about right now. And when I heard this like centrist savior complex that he had, and before we even get to that point, I'm kind of like, where is this going? Like, what is he talking about? He kept talking about education, and the education was this big issue. And so I mentioned that, hey, I'm in a red state and we have these crazy education policies here. So then he goes on and he brings up the bathroom thing. And I just thought, why did you bring that up? What was the point of bringing that up? Is that a signal to people that are never going to vote for you ever? What kind of signal is that? Why did you have to bring that up? And let me tell you why education and trans issues are intimately linked. In my state, you guys, we have this batshit crazy superintendent of school named Ryan Walters. Every single day, this man gets in his car and films videos that he puts on TikTok or wherever. And he claims that there is this radical, woke, trans agenda in the state of Oklahoma. Spoiler alert, there's not. This is the buckle of the Bible Belt. And that public schools are not safe. So MAGA has used the trans issue to get people to vote against getting their children an objective education. And guess what? It's working in red states. That scapegoating of the most marginalized people is actually working here. So that was my reaction. Like, I'm fiercely loyal to people. And when I heard him throw in that bathroom thing and acting like Kamala wasn't talking about kitchen table issues, that kind of pissed me off too, because it wasn't intellectually honest. It wasn't an honest statement. It was a pandering statement, and it really pissed me off. And Pumps, my co-host, always has this thing where she's like, oh, Jenny's going to blow. And I could feel it coming up in me. And Pumps was sick that day and my husband was subbing for her. And I could just see the producers and everybody was like, oh shit, she went there.
So you know how my producers used to feel. Look, I think that I love the way that you do it. And I think that if I don't want to be, I don't want to be insulted. You're a wolf in sheep's clothing in the best way, because you are really smart. You're gorgeous. You're really smart. And they don't expect that coming from you. You know what I mean? And when I do it, they call me, oh, you're a race baiter. You're a Trump derangement syndrome. You're blah, 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 blah. And by the way, before you respond, some of that did happen to you, because this was the goons over at Fox News had to say about you.
Moderate Rahm Emanuel getting his face ripped off, metaphorically, by a liberal podcaster after poor Rahm didn't toe the party line on transgender bathrooms. Listen.
The only room we did really well was the bathroom. And that's the smallest room in the house.
That is total. That is buying into the right-wing media narrative. And I'm so sick of Democrats like you selling out and saying this. MAGA is the most genital obsessed political party I have ever seen. Kamala Harris talked about homeownership. She talked about kitchen table issues. Trump's over there droning on about Hannibal Lecter. Are you kidding me?
Mean. What do you want to say, Dana?
This is what I want to say. In the previous block, we were talking about Democrats going on other Democrats' podcasts.
Yeah.
And how it is helpful for them. So the Republicans have gone through this political realignment. They now have a big tent. There's a lot of different types of Republicans, and they can all be a part of this movement and disagree. The Democrats haven't gone through this yet. Now they're going through it. And I think it is healthy for them, and it is good for people like Rahm Emanuel to be out there. He's not been afraid to talk about this issue, and he's a younger version of a James Carville, right? Mm-hmm. So we can say this is a path for success for us, and it doesn't run through the transgender crowd.
I like how Rahm's doing the move when the crazy lady won't stop talking.
I got to say that the trans, she's pretty attractive because
for trans.
Yeah, for trans, definitely. I mean, she's right. Obvious. No, she has to be trans. Why would she deny it? Why would you? There's no difference between a trans woman and a woman. So she's obviously trans. And she passes really well. I got to give her that. This is projection at its most precise. You have a progressive demanding you accept men as women, screaming and protesting about it. But when you say enough, then they call you obsessive. Mm-hmm. They call you hysterical. What they're really saying is they don't like it when you resist. You should lie back and enjoy it. When they say men can enter women's bathrooms. Trans activists say this a lot. You should accept the penis wherever it appears, or you're transphobic. But you're right. This was an awful and a bemused guy, which is basically a microcosm of the Democratic condition. The affluent white female liberal and the bemused guy. This is why the Dems are bleeding men. You know, it's a party of shrieking women who project their failures on them.
I thought it was just going to be this Greg guy, but the clip was longer, and I'm glad we played the longer clip. But what an asshole!
You know. It's so childish. And also it takes me back to the adjective that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz used initially when they came out. It's weird. Like the whole reaction to that was weird. It's like, let's get to name calling and Jennifer must be trans because penises are allowed everywhere and you have to lie back and take it. And there's all this weird sexually coded stuff in there. It's like, to me, the way he talked about all of that proved my point that he's obsessed with trans people.
Well, not just trans people. You know, those conservative men are obsessed with gay people.
Totally.
And a lot of them are really, really, really suppressed and closeted. You guys have been talking about that on your podcast I'm just going to say you have been discussing, among other things, MAGA Mike Johnson and other things, I'll just say.
Okay, here's what I think, Dawn. I have a theory on this. So when I was in college, I hung out exclusively with gay men. Okay, so gay men raised, 18, 19, 20-year-old Jennifer. And so I went out to gay bars all of the time. I have excellent gaydar, okay? This is my theory. I think a lot of these MAGA men watch a lot of porn. And at times, they get turned on by the male character in the porn. They might see a penis or the man doing something that's sexy and it excites them. And then, but they're big Jesus guys, right? So then after they get their rocks off, then they're like, oh shit, that was kind of gay. So then they outwardly try to shame gay people because secretly they're kind of into it. It kind of turns them on. They're a little bi-curious, or maybe in like MAGA Moses Mike Johnson's case, I think he might be full blown because he spends an extraordinary amount of time monitoring porn and talking about porn and gay porn and all of this stuff. But I think at the epicenter of all that outward machismo, I guarantee you, if we could see their Pornhub search list, I guarantee you it's pretty gay. That's my theory.
You know, I'm a gay man, and I've had up close and personal experiences with these things, these kinds of folks, these kinds of people. Okay, let's move on, shall we? Okay, let's move on because I want to show you this. Okay, this is Pete Buttigieg on with Andrew Schultz on a podcast. It's sort of a right-wing broadcast, and you know, Pete Buttigieg does a great job when he goes into the lion's den. But here we go. Let's listen to it. But the reason I'm playing is because you said you and I feel the same way about some of these things. Here it is.
I want you to be able to get up in the morning, and the first thing you do is you commute to work. And by the way, if you're on an EV, I want that to be affordable for you. Or if you're on public transit, not to get back into the subway situation, but I want you to have good public transit to get to where you're going. And then when you get to that job, I want you to be paid well. And if you're about to have a kid, I want you to know that you're going to have parental leave when you have that kid. And if you don't want to have a kid, I want you to have the right to choose whether to have a kid, which means access to birth control and abortion and those things that give you the freedom to decide on that. And if you already have a kid, when you pick them up at school, I want that school to be good, not having its funding slashed while they set fire to the Department of Education. And then when you get home, I want you to be in a neighborhood that is safe and where you can breathe the air because we didn't let them get rid of the Clean Air Act. And you don't have to think for one moment about whether the air you breathe or the water you drink is clean and clear, which actually takes a lot because it means the government has to constrain those actors that would make you unfree by polluting the air and polluting the water. And then when you go to bed, I want you to know that your family's going to be fine, even if it's family like mine, despite there being some Supreme Court justice who wants to obliterate your family because it doesn't match his interpretation of his religion. Like, that's the life I want everybody to be able to live.
Yeah, I think
we can deliver that.
That's fine.
Okay, so I think he did a great job on that. But two things. No shade for Pete Buttigieg. I think he's very bright. He's very smart. I like him. But I have been saying to the Democrats, and this is me speaking, where have you been? I've been watching these podcasts and seeing these podcasts for years now. And I believe, fine, you should go on those podcasts, but you also need to create an ecosystem for your own type of politics and help the folks out who are at least trying to keep democracy intact, like you, like me, like others who are in these spaces. And most of the time they'll go on these broadcasts now that they figured out that Trump won. It's a little too late right now, but I think that they should have been, okay, that's over. But now they should be creating their own sort of media ecosystem to be just as big and to be able to at least compete against the folks who are on the other side, so to speak.
I agree with you. I think one thing I've heard Pete say in the past about going on Fox, and this made a lot of sense to me. He said that he knows that they live in this right-wing media echo chamber. And maybe, just maybe, if he's on there for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, they hear something different. And so I'm happy that he did Andrew Schultz, but also the Democratic Party's approval rating right now is 20%. And back to what I think her name was Dana Perino in the Fox 5, she said something that I want to give her credit. She said, the Democrats haven't done this yet. The Republicans have been going on podcasts and they've worked out a lot of the kinks and they made a quote, big tent party. And we all know who that's in that tent. Proud Boys, white supremacists, racists, homophobes, all the stuff. But I do think that Pete needs to do his own base just as much, because I think the conversation that I had with Rahm was very productive. He is a centrist. He would potentially want to run as a centrist. And he thinks that the trans issue, despite it being exit polling shows the 21st issue that people voted on, 21 down on the list, that's a big thing that Democrats need to move on. And I think we need to make the case as a party, are we for democracy for everybody? Or are we going to start cherry picking who gets the First Amendment? And I think we need to have those kind of fights. Like, I'm not mad at Rahm Emanuel. I don't dislike Rahm Emanuel. I think a healthy political party, we need to have those conversations. I'm glad it went viral. I'm glad that it fired some people up. I think that kind of discourse is healthy and important.
I agree with you. There was more than 100%. This is the kind of stuff you're going to see on the I've Had It With podcast. As a matter of fact, this is Jennifer. I believe this is from her podcast where she's talking about Democrats. Said shouldn't be going on just the manosphere. Here it is.
I've had it with this idea that gets floated a lot in politics that we need to sit down and talk to the other side, right? Like, do I really have to sit down and say, this is why I think dictatorships are bad, and get out history books?
Are we there?
And it just seems like the burden of this always falls on the left to go sit down with the dipshits and have regressive conversations. And I think we all have to draw boundaries and say, we're not talking to stupid. And you can hear them all say, oh, look, you're talking down to them. And I would say, you're goddamn right we are. Sometimes I am just too much.
I love it, but you're right, because some of it. Look, I think we both agree you have to go on, but there's a certain point where there's some things you just cannot engage in. There are some places I will just not go because it's just too stupid, and it's just too. There's so much dumb. You know what I mean?
There really is, and I feel like when you start having regressive conversations, or you're starting to argue facts, or you have to explain to somebody, why racism is bad, you're just going to start spinning your tires, because these people dine breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the hateful propaganda that makes them feel okay. And Fox is positioned, somebody black on there, and, both black male, that Harris Faulkner, she drives me crazy, that black woman on Fox.
Oh my gosh, we should talk.
That shit.
What the hell?
What is wrong with her, Dawn? Because you know what that does? This is what pisses me off about it. The Candace Owens and the Dawn Faulkners, they give white women that are in my demographic that live in red states like this, it makes them feel like they're not racist because they watch Dawn Faulkner or listen to Candace Owens, and it's dangerous.
I agree. Sometimes when I can't watch because I'm like, oh my God, lady, what are you doing? But I mean, maybe do you become brainwashed by the Fox system, I guess? And she used to, I know her, I don't know her personally, but I would see her at events and we would sort of chat and whatever. But I don't know, it's something happens over there where you get sucked into this kind of fembot. I hate to say that. You know what I mean? This sort of Fox fembot with the dress and the shoes and all of the hair and the makeup and the thinking. It's like, it's a lot. Anyways, let's move on. I want to talk about someone who both you and I like, but we've had criticism for, and we both want to talk to him. And this is Gavin Newsom. He's got this new podcast, and he's been talking to, the likes of Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon. And Gavin Newsom is hitting back at critics of his Bannon and Kirk interview. And he says it's Exhibit A of the Democratic Party's problems. Why is it Exhibit A that people are criticizing him, not for speaking to Steve Bannon, not for speaking to Charlie Kirk, but not holding them account for their racism, their bigotry, their homophobia, their, in many cases, anti-Semitism, all of it. Why? Do you understand what I'm saying? So how is this Exhibit A of the Democratic Party's problems?
This is the exact same thing that Rahm Emanuel's doing, Don. It is an appeasement to the bigots. It is acting like we are the part of the problem. If you are arriving at the autopsy of this election where we lost by 1 percentage point, more people, when you include third parties, voted against Donald Trump than for him. And Rahm Emanuel and Gavin Newsom and other centrists act like it was this massive landslide. It simply was not. And so what my opinion, and I'm not a political strategist, but is when you arrive at that and you start seeding, you're seeding like, oh, we're going to seed trans rights, and oh, we're going to seed that we have to go talk to Steve Bannon. Come on. This is like the war room is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Didn't he go to jail and been indicted and all sorts of shit?
Some
So,
sort of
I mean, there's just,
scam on a boat. I think they arrested him or something. Yeah.
yeah. And so it's just, I'm sorry. I think that these people they get so inside the beltway of politics that it's like, okay, we're going to go talk to MAGA. And I have news for you. These people will never vote for a Democrat. They are indoctrinated triple Trumpers who feast on Fox News. The bigger problem and the bigger thing they should look at is these 10 million voters that didn't show up. It's not that Trump even grew his numbers that great. Our
Right.
base didn't show up. So
It's
how
apathy
does
on the
this help
Democratic
base?
side. I always say, Jen, sorry to cut you off. I always say that it was apathy on the Democratic side. It was more that Democrats lost than Donald Trump won. People were just not excited about the election. And also, they fell for all of the normalizing of the MAGA folks, all of the false equivalence that's in corporate media. And they believe some of those things. Donald Trump gave me a STEMI check, and Republicans are better for the economy than Democrats. None of it's true. I mean, well, he did give him a check, but so Joe Biden gave them 2 stimulus checks. And if you look at the actual numbers, like Bill Clinton says, just do the arithmetic. Democrats have created more jobs, many, many more, tens of thousands of more jobs, maybe millions more jobs than Republicans and under Republican administrations. And this is coming from someone who is not a Democrat, nor am I a Republican. It is just the truth. But people, because I believe of our really bad media, I guess business right now, and I'm not talking about journalists. There are real journalists out there who are doing the work, but just the way the corporation sort of sets it up that what they must do, they have to bring these people on. They have to normalize them, which is in some ways what Gavin Newsom is doing. You have to, just because you say something that is critical of someone in MAGA or Donald Trump, then you automatically must say something critical about a Democrat or Kamala Harris. Some things are just objectively bad where you don't have to give an example of false equivalence on the other side. That's how I feel about this.
I completely agree. And before he started this podcast, we interviewed him during the campaign. And I'm just going to tell you, I think he's electable on a national scale. He's attractive. He's well-spoken. But I remember when I first learned of Gavin Newsom, he was the mayor of San Francisco. And I was just this non-religious liberal that lived in the buckle of the Bible Belt. And I saw him on Bill Maher. And this was years ago. Probably he's married to that crazy Kimberly Garfield or whatever her name is. Anyway, he was speaking about like Pride Parade and gay rights. And I remember thinking, wow, this straight white guy is speaking for people. This guy could be president one day. And I don't know. I think that where they're underestimating the electorate is the authenticity issue. Trump is authentic. He's batshit crazy, but every day he has conviction in his craziness, and he authentically serves up crazy all day long, and he's serious about it. I think that what people are sick of, the way the media has changed, is like, oh, he's at Pride Parade and he's a big ally. And then all of a sudden it's like, let's play patty cake with racist Steve Bannon. People are like, oh, come on, bitch, please. That's just kind of where we all go with that, Don. And I think the authenticity is better. And I think that they are not behooving themselves, nor the party, nor the country. And I think it's very similar to appeasement, World War II style. I don't think history is going to be kind to the people that went and sat down with the party that has Elon Musk, who does 2 sick Heils, Nazi shit. Look at his sales. Nobody likes Nazi shit. And so why are we sitting down with them?
Well, listen, I interviewed him as well before the, actually at the convention, I interviewed him, and we, talked for a long time. I talked with him so long as people were like, he's got to go. And I just kept asking, you just keep doing it for as long as you can.
Charming, yeah.
Yeah, but he's very charming. I'd known him before, and I text message with him occasionally. But I was with the young folks who do my social media, who help me with my social media team, and they're young folks, and they met him, and they're like, "Oh my!" They met him in this. We were in the same suite as him and Dave Chappelle, and they were like, "Oh my God, Don, this is amazing!" And they said, I asked them, out of all the folks we've met at the convention, what do you think? And they said, Gavin Newsom has the best aura. You know, the kids now say aura, like his aura is off the charts. We love him. Blah 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 blah. Okay. After the podcast started, his podcast with Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon, etc., they all started texting me going, Gavin Newsom, negative aura. What is he doing? And these are young folks who are not necessarily political and don't really have any allegiance to any political party, but they just thought, like, cozying up, so to speak, with these folks who are just, you know, outrageous liars and bigots, that it's negative aura. They would never vote for him. And they're not even Republicans.
I think it was so off-putting to see that kind of 180, you know, or if he has him on, that you didn't see him fired up the way I was and fired up the way you've gotten with people, like, what the hell are y'all doing, and calling him out. But it was like the Charlie Kirk thing was the weirdest thing to me. He's like, yeah, my son's a big fan of yours. And I'm like, hold on.
And I want to learn from you.
Son? Watch Charlie Kirk. What's going on here? I thought it was so weird, and I think he tanked his brand. And I think this is interesting. And tell me what you think about this. So you have Rahm, he's the centrist savior. Gavin Newsom is trying to be the centrist savior. But there are two people who are getting tens of thousands of people to show up for them all over the country. And they have
Bernie and AOC.
And we're acting like that's not even happening. And it's
no, acting like, and when you talk to people in the Democratic Party, they'll say, "Oh, you guys are crazy. That's not what the party wants." And I'm like, yeah, that's what your party wants, or your party wants that. Perhaps, Jen, they should lean into the progressive side of their party, and maybe the younger side, because you got the young and you got the old. But maybe they should lean. Maybe people want a little bit more authenticity, and maybe they want like healthcare for, you know, as many people as possible, or healthcare for all. Maybe they think that people deserve those things.
I think so too. And I want to bring up a point. We had Andy Beshear on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
He is the governor of Kentucky, red state. And Andy is just, I mean, it's like straight out of Central Casting. Like he was in Oklahoma, and we were like, oh my God, we had our people reach out to see if he could come to our studio. And he came by. And this man ran on being like, I am a Democrat and my faith compels me. He's a very religious man, that I can't turn my back on those trans kids. And it was a big issue in his gubernatorial race. And he didn't abandon the most marginalized people. He advocated for them. Tim Walz, former football coach, he is progressive, but he has this plain spoken progressive message. I think that there's the optics that Bernie and AOC are so crazy and they're woke. But when you get the optics of like Tim Walz or Andy Beshear, and this is probably just a white people thing. White people probably think that's more palatable. And I hate that to all of your viewers. I hate that that's even a thing. But I think the progressives of the party, AOC, Bernie, Tim Walz, Andy Beshear, need to start really joining together, because I think this is a very, very critical time. And they're disappearing brown people right now, you know, immigrants. And, you know, nobody even talks about that poor 19-year-old gay kid, Venezuelan kid that got sent off. And of course, Garcia, but we all know where it's heading. We all know that all of this is a backlash from a Black man living in the White House for 8 years. We all know that. If we really, really hook up the truth serum and a polygraph, we all know that what did Trump come out with? Oh, he's not from here. We all know. So I think we really, really, really have to fight and not leave anybody behind. And that includes trans people, because what kind of party and what kind of country are we if we take less than 1% of the population that just wants to exist and throw them under the bus to score political points? That's just not something I'm ever going to do. And if the Democrats do that, I think they will have a mass exodus in their party. And I live in a red state. All the women, all the white ladies that I play tennis and pickleball with, they don't like that. They don't like people abandoning the gay and the trans community, because everybody's 1 to 2 degrees away from having a gay person or a non-binary person or an effeminate gay man or a tomboy type lesbian. We all know that these people are in our community and we shouldn't make fun of them and we shouldn't have government-sponsored bullying. It's bullshit. Pisses me off, Don.
If I wasn't married,
We
you
would be the
weren't
hottest
married,
couple.
we'd
we
have
be?
beautiful kids, baby.
Oh, yeah.
You look so great, Jen. You're scrubbed. You look amazing. You look happy and free
Thank you.
and fresh. Yeah, you look great. I got to ask you real quick. So, would you go up in that rocket to the space?
Okay, here's the thing. If it's Jeff Bezos' rocket, I'm not going to get in a Nazi rocket. I'm not doing that. If it was the Don Lemon rocket, I would do it because I think it would be kind of cool. But right now is not the time for everybody to be up in rockets. Here's what I think. Like Elon has a rocket. Jeff Bezos has a rocket. The rockets look like penises. Let's just get out the cameras. Everybody drop their britches, get out the measuring stick, measure it, live tweet the results so we can move on. Yes.
Yeah, I had this because I was measuring something for the window to put. I put a window shade up to block the sun.
You know what they say, once you go black.
Once you go black,
Never
I don't know.
back.
You're gonna get in trouble. I think Shannon Sharp is in trouble. You're gonna get me in trouble. So Jen, no, I thought it was look. I wrote about it. Nothing against the women. I think they're great women. I don't want to take away from their. How did I write about this? I don't want to take anything away from their agency or whatever it is that they accomplish. I just thought it was a little tone deaf. Not a little. I thought it was a lot tone deaf, considering what's going on in the world.
I felt like it was a betrayal because of Jeff Bezos selling out and going to the inauguration and spiking the endorsement on Kamala Harris, a female president. He spiked her endorsement and she earned that endorsement and he spiked it to a Black woman, the very first woman of color that was running at the top of the ticket. And then he wants to play like he's a champion for females. I thought it was performative. I'm not buying it. And I was disappointed in the women that took part in it. I was, because I think this is a time that we all have to stand together. And I think what Jeff Bezos did to Kamala Harris with the Washington Post endorsement is disgraceful. And nobody would do that to a white man. And they did it to a Black woman. And that's why he did it. And I don't like that.
Can we talk about something controversial since you mentioned it? And we're controversial here. So let's just be honest about 2028. Okay. Does it have to, do you think it's got to be a white guy? You think it's got to be a white straight guy as much as people like Pete Buttigieg? Is it time for a gay man to run for president? Is it time for someone? I hate to say that, but I'm just asking.
We have to say it. And I think that you and I can have this conversation. I want a female president. I thought Kamala Harris was extraordinarily qualified. Truth be told, she was more qualified when she ran for president than Barack Obama was the first time. She had more experience. I do think that that she's female and Black. I think that hurts her. And I hate that. I don't like that at all. So I wish it could be Pete Buttigieg and an AOC ticket, something like that. But there is just a whole part of America that there's the cult. They're immovable. But there was a lot of people that set this out, and people that I knew, they were men, white men in Oklahoma. And I would say, are you going to vote today? No, I'm not voting this election. It was about 6 or 7 white men that I knew. And I thought, that's interesting. They know Trump is too crazy to vote for, but they're not going to go vote for the very qualified, very smart Black lady. And I think that happened across all 50 states. And I don't like that. Could you imagine how fun America would be right now with her? Like all the memes and she's, and she's just smart and all of that.
Can you imagine what our retirement and our 401ks would look like right now?
I know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess maybe we have to run a straight white guy, and I guess we're going to have to keep doing that. I don't like it, but I think it's a very important conversation to have because it's the optics of everything is, we're constantly looking at screens. And
Yeah.
Barack Obama was, he's like a once in a generation, once in a lifetime kind of politician. Like he's just amazing. And I thought Kamala did a phenomenal job. Where I got a little mad at Kamala, not mad, I still voted for her, campaigned for her, all this stuff, was when she started trotting around with Liz Cheney.
With Liz Cheney. Yeah.
I
And
didn't
see,
like that.
that's the thing. You and I, we're so much alike. I think that you can be critical of people and still like them and support them. And I think that is productive to be critical of people because
Totally.
I certainly will take constructive criticism. I'm criticized all the time and I don't hold it against people as long as you're not calling me, the N-word or something like that. But look, I changed my mind on Bernie and AOC. I used to be like, there's no way Bernie's going to win. It's got to be. And now, I have new information. And usually what people do who are somewhat intelligent is that when they get new and better information, they change their minds. They evolve, and we evolve over time. And so I have evolved and I've been very critical of them. And now, hey, I like them. I think they're
I
doing
do
good.
too.
Yeah.
I like Bernie and I like AOC so much. And I will say when it was down to the primary between Bernie and Hillary Clinton, I voted for Hillary Clinton. And my oldest son was like, you should vote for Bernie, the Democratic establishment, blah, blah. And I was kind of, I watched corporate news. I kind of towed the party line, right? Well, come to find out, a lot of this unregulated capitalism helped birth Trump and the greed and the worship of money over the rights of people in this country. Bernie ended up really being right about a lot of this stuff. And so like you, I evolved and I realized, like, I think that's why I probably had such a visceral reaction to Rahm, because it was like, oh, no, you're not. You are not going to tell me what the party line is and that I'm supposed to toe it. I'm not falling for that shit again. I got my heart broken in 2016. I got my heart broken when the Trump 2.0 in 2024, and I'm not falling for this shit again.
Yeah.
That's why aside from picking on trans kids.
Yeah. I've always thought, and I've said this to you before, we should stop letting our critics or our enemies define us. And I think that's what many people in the Democratic Party are doing right now. But Jen, you're awesome. I love seeing you. Go watch the I've Had It With. Where's Pumps?
Pumps said she was going to show up in the comment section. She said this is what she said she was going to say. She said, tell Don that I don't want you to be his girlfriend, that I want to be his top #1 girlfriend. So you have to have Pumps on next week because she loves you. But I want to tell you, Lemon Nation, something. Out of all the people in my contact list, nobody has an emoji next to their name. I'm kind of anti-cutesy stuff. The only MFer in my entire phone that has an emoji next to his contact is Don Lemon. And there's a yellow lemon and a yellow heart because that's how much I love Don.
I love you too. Bye, Jen. I'll see you soon. Okay. Thank you
Okay.
so
Bye,
much.
darling. I'll be
All
in
right.
New York soon.
Okay. Yeah, holler. Okay.
Okay.
See you later.
Bye.
Isn't she great? I mean, amazing. Don't you guys love her?
Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.